All right, House of Payne fans, I mentioned this already in my trailer breakdown for this week's episode that we saw. What was it? The cracked nest egg. And I said that House of Payne definitely could have done something of a mini arc that could have been maybe 3 to 4 episodes long, give or take. That could have been like the wedding arc, a mini saga, if you will. And I just looked back at the past like 3 or 4 episodes, basically the last month's worth of episodes, and wasn't really that impressed. Now you had the one episode where they got the 40th anniversary of Curtis and Ella, and Curtis planned to propose again so they can renew their vows. Then you had the episode with the wedding, and the big debate was, "Oh, Curtis, you're so cheap." Last week's episode was the whole unwelcome neighbors thing slash the Laura bringing up Calvin being used by Miranda for child support money. So yeah, let's scrap that episode. So we could have made this maybe a 3 episode kind of thing, where the first episode pretty much was good. I honestly don't have that many problems with the episode that got this thing started, and that was Curtis trying to recreate the first date he and Ella had at an Italian restaurant, and he got the ring that Ella wanted, but he couldn't afford at the time, and then he ended up proposing. Have no problem with that episode. For the most part, that could stay the same. It's the second episode when things kind of got weird. Now, you got the whole situation of Miranda planning this extravagant wedding, and Ella's all for it, but Curtis doesn't want to blow all that money because, like CJ said in this week's episode, "Oh, Curtis, how much do y'all have in retirement? Enough to take a trip around the world. And help the help center." And it's like, wait, what? Okay. So my biggest thing is I really wish they would have established the value of the ring, because I said, I don't really know much about jewelry, but something tells me that a ring from 40 years ago is probably a lot more expensive now than it was back then. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying. So he probably dropped a sizable amount of money to get the ring. Also, the suit and whatnot that turned out to be orange, but we know he got another suit by the time of the event. So basically from there, that was a lot of money. And that could explain why he felt like, I had a certain budget for the whole ring and wedding thing, but things turned out to be more expensive, so I can only spend so much on the wedding. So instead, let's flip it around. I think an interesting concept would have been a clash of ideals. Instead of it being cheap, it's the matter of charity. Where Curtis was the one who really wanted to have a blowout, wedding for his wife for the 40th anniversary. Baby, we're going to have everything we didn't have at our first wedding. So the ring could have been the first part of that. But then it's like, I really want to have a big ceremony, a lot of people, this and that. So it would have been Curtis who have been having this extravagant idea of how to have their ceremony, in terms of, I don't know if he would say doves and ice sculptures, but let's just say Curtis would be Curtis and he would go big. He would go big or go home. So it would be pretty pricey. But then while Ella, is kind of into it, but at the same time, she's not as excited, or, I don't know, maybe she is excited about it, oh yeah, yeah, we're going to do it big like we should have done. I don't want to say should have done, but we wanted to 40 years ago, but we just couldn't afford to do it that long ago. But then we find out about the help center being in shambles, which, to be completely honest, with Ella being so involved in the church and whatnot, it feels weird for it just to now be brought up as a point of, oh my God, it really is that bad. So then it becomes a question of finding out how much the help center repairs are. And then Ella's like, Curtis, instead of having this huge extravagant wedding, how about we do something really special for our 40th anniversary? How about we help out the help center by, refurbishing it and repairing it and whatnot. And then Curtis is like, baby, but this is our 40th anniversary. We need to celebrate. We need to go big. We need to go all out. And then the drama or the confrontation is the fact that you got Curtis, who doesn't want to help the help center because of the fact that he wants to do a big, vow renewal for their 40th anniversary. And then Ella is like, well, come on, Curtis, like the man, how much the help center means to me and the community. It becomes kind of a, oh, Curtis is selfish because he doesn't want to help the help center. But is it wrong for him to want to have a big wedding? So you kind of see both sides of it to really make the conflict. Again, I make this example a lot. Captain America Civil War. It was a good debate about morality and what's right and wrong in terms of what Tony wanted for the Avengers and what Cap wanted for the superheroes. So it kind of felt like you can see both sides. It's hard to determine who is right. And even if you decide, I picked this person because I think they were right, but you could see the other person's point of view as well. And like I said, just real quick, I still don't like how Ella just up and said we're going to give the money to the help center, because if the church can't afford to repair the help center without donations, how is the church supposed to give that money back to the Paynes? Like I said, it just felt like too big of a, donation to give right off the rip, because you should have exhausted all your options. Like, for one, and I made this point in my review, number one, if the help center is so important, or, so important to the community as it's said to be over and over again, get the community to pitch in to help. Glow, this could have been a perfect time for her to come. Glow is the HOA president. Ella pretty much knows the church, everybody from the pulpit to the front, the ushers at the door. Get everybody together and try to work something out. Hell, Curtis, with his barbecue truck and being a former firefighter, and CJ, they all could have outreach to their branch of the community. And hell, if you want to go so far as Lisa in the strip club, or Malik and his college people, all these people could have chipped in to either just give in donations, or they could have had a fundraiser event, anything in order to raise the money. Now, if you want to be like, well, the repairs need to be made ASAP, then work something out. Have it where the Paynes could give the money up front, but from there, the church is like, okay, well, yeah, the health center is pretty bad. So if you wanted to give the money up front, like a loan, we can fix it up immediately. And then from there, once the help center is fully renovated, we can have this big community like fundraiser or carnival to bring in a lot more money. And then from there, we can pay you back. That way there would be a point of, okay, great. Now it's not like I'm giving you this money, but then I'm always looking over my shoulder like, man, how are they going to pay us back? Because like CJ or Calvin even said, it's no wonder the help center can't be repaired by the church, because the little money the church has, they need that to keep their own lights on. So yeah, there really should have been more in terms of the writing to establish that the church did make an agreement, because faith is good. Giving to the church is good. I'm not, denying that. But when you're reaching into your pension as you prepare for retirement, it's a bit too risky, especially in this economy. So while Ella might be faith, oh, the church is going to pay us back, Curtis. Well, like you said, it's not your pension that, you're putting up. And, well, hey, it is what it is. So I really do feel like the writing could have been a bit tighter in order to establish that they did say they would work out some way of paying the money back. So that's my thing. But in any case, when it comes to the help center, Ella could have been like, well, yeah, we can don't have to do the ceremony. And then, Curtis is in his feelings because he really wanted to. His selfishness comes from his love, and that's what he wanted to give Ella what he couldn't 40 years ago. But then, maybe she would have called off the engagement or the vow renewal, because I don't know if I would say yes if we went to the altar again. But then the beautiful part of it could have been like, maybe Calvin or CJ could have had a conversation with Curtis about how, that's sweet, and it makes sense that you want to give the world to Aunt Ella because you weren't able to do that 40 years ago, but she's still here, isn't she? So that means she obviously values what you two have together and what you built together. From you working all the time to her making sure you had a nice home and a hot meal to come to, taking care of your son. So in a way, you kind of gave her everything you couldn't 40 years ago over the course of 40 years. And then Curtis comes to realize that, wow, you're right. She definitely was a huge help, and that's her heart, her giving heart. So that So that help center, while it might not be a cruise around the world or, the huge ring you wanted to give her 40 years ago, that help center means the world to her. I mean, because in a way, the help center is an extension of Ella in general, a, warm refuge to help out the community. And as a result, Curtis realized, wow, okay, you're right. So let's say they have a scene, and yes, this would require a different set. You have Ella in the help center looking at how run down it is. And, we see her, I don't know, like trying to do something like, I don't know, sweeping the floor, just something small to make it seem like she's doing something. And then Curtis comes in and they have an emotional moment. And then he makes a speech about how this help center pretty much is, part of Ella, just like, she's part of him. And he mentions that I stopped by the church and I wrote a check. So they're going to get this place fixed up. And then from there, Ella's, all emotional. And then he gets down on one knee, represents the ring that she had returned to him. And she wants to renew their vows. And instead of a huge ceremony, they do have a ceremony, but it's not going to be as big and expensive as, Curtis originally wanted it. And I feel like that would have been a great way to not only do a vow renewal, but at the same time, establish why the help center, got all that money. And I mean, you could have it could have been like a situation where Curtis could have just said, I wrote a check and it was a donation. It wasn't a loan. Or like I said before, the help center is like, hey, the church is like, hey, since you wrote this huge check, what we'll do once the help center is, repaired and everything, we'll have this huge church event and all the funds raised. We'll use that to pay you back. So don't worry, we'll give you your money back, but just thank you right now for helping the help center and whatnot. So I think that would have been better. That's just my opinion. So from there, obviously more characters could have been in attendance. Look, as much as I want Jasmine, Janine, the barbershop crew, the firehouse crew, and all these other people to show up, I'm just going to say that we're going to work with the characters we have seen regularly. So Floyd should have been at the damn wedding or the vow renewal. Seriously, he should have been there. And that's pretty much it. So that's all I got. Thanks so much for tuning in. And for the House of Payne writers, if you're listening to this, if you need ideas, just hit me up. Well, then again, I know you all have filmed season 12 already, so I don't know how long the show is going to go on for. But if you're going to write episodes like this, treat it with respect. I mean, Calvin seeing his parents get their 40th anniversary vow renewal, that should have been a big thing. It shouldn't have just been 2 episodes. I mean, it was 2, but the proposal and then the ceremony itself. But it really could have tied together into a sweet mini arc. So, I mean, notice I really didn't mention a lot in terms of the other characters because I really wanted to focus more on Curtis and Ella. In terms of Calvin and Miranda, I'm not saying you have to get them together, but one thing that could have been great is during this like 3 or 4 episode arc, it could have been a question of Calvin going, wow, okay, my parents made it to their 40th anniversary. Do I see myself 40 years from now with Laura or Miranda or neither of them? So that could have been an interesting, conflict for Calvin to deal with as the wedding plans went forward. And let's say Miranda's kind of upset because her role is kind of useless now. Her whole thing was helping plan this huge wedding, but with Ella, shutting it down, now it's like, now what is she going to do? And then you could have had Miranda and Calvin just sit together and reminisce about what their wedding was like. And then it became a, okay, will they, won't they kind of thing. Who knows? And I'm not saying at the ceremony when Curtis and Ella were renewing their vows that Calvin and Miranda would just hop up there and do the same and get remarried. I'm not saying that would happen, but I am saying that it would have been interesting for their characters. And heck, in terms of Malik and Lisa, not saying they need to get married right away, but I'm just saying that they could be sitting there like, wow, we got this beautiful baby girl together and, we're doing good. But, what it could have been like maybe Lisa asking Malik, so when are we going to get married? That kind of thing. I think that that was a question at the beginning of the season when Janine was possibly dead and Malik wanted to propose, but Lisa was like, no, this is way too soon. You're doing this out of emotion. So it really could have been like one of them things where, what exactly is their future. So it would have been great. It really would have been great to see like 3 different couples wrestle with their futures in terms of Curtis and Ella, Calvin and possibly Miranda, and then Lisa and Malik. So that could have gave the other characters something to do. And heck, you could have had a great conversation where Malik talks to his dad about like, when did you and mom get like, married? Like, what was that like? So it could have been great character lore. That's all I'm saying, but they didn't do that. So yeah, it sucks because these episodes could have been a hell of a lot better than they were. Okay, so thanks so much for tuning in. I'm done. Catch you in the next episode of House of Payne.